politically. And so why is somebody like Joe Biden focusing on Juneteenth instead of, I don't know, the criminal justice system or reparations or something like that? It's because he is breaking promises left and right. Okay, he is going back on campaign promises left and right. Let's not forget the $2,000 stimulus checks that we were supposed to get. Remember, they were supposed to go right out the door.
Yeah.
He won, and then he said if we win the 2 seats in Georgia, those $2,000 checks will go right out the door. So, but instead of getting $2,000 checks in January, in early January when we were supposed to get them, we got $1,400 checks at the end of March. At least that's when I got mine, at the end of March. And so that was a broken campaign promise. He broke this campaign promise to cancel $10,000 in debt for $42 million in terms of college. Now, he could just do that with the stroke of a pen. He doesn't need Congress for that. He could have done that. He promised he would do that. He is not doing that. He promised to establish a national commission on policing. And he immediately, well, should I say quietly, disbanded the commission early in the spring because they said that they were going to focus on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
Okay.
But the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is stalled on Capitol Hill. And they are really giving up on that. And I'm going to tell you in a minute how they do that exactly. He broke his promise to Bernie Sanders. He went down to Bernie Sanders and said that he was going to fight for a $15 minimum wage. He is already given up on that. He told lots of governors around the country he wasn't even going to fight for that. The $300 weekly unemployment benefits. The public option. Remember? The public option. They were supposed to add a public option. That is basically gone. He said that he would get rid of the Trump tax cuts completely. He's getting rid of the Trump tax cuts, the corporate hike. He was supposed to. I'm sorry. He's supposed to hike taxes on the corporations to 28%, and now he's saying, well, maybe 15%, maybe 21%. And one of the most ironic things that he's gone back on was his opposition to Nord Stream 2, which was Russia's pipeline into Europe. Now, remember, all they talked about, the media and the Democrats talked about for 4 years while Trump was president, was, oh my God, Trump is capitulating to Russia over and over again. Oh my God, Russia.
Yeah.
And now it is Joe Biden who is going soft on Russia by saying, hey, go ahead and build your pipeline. Go ahead and do that. He said he was going to punish the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, for the way that they chopped up the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. He's giving up on that. He's like, whatever. And the children detention centers on the border. When Trump was in office, him and Kamala Harris went up there and they grandstanded about, oh my God, how horrific these centers are. They're still there. They're still there. Let's see what the callers have to say, because our callers have been online. We have 2 callers. Hello, caller.
Hello. I was calling, if I could, to add something to the conversation.
Yes, please do.
Juneteenth.
Oh, yes.
Well, the Juneteenth acknowledgement is the acknowledgement of when they were made aware in Galveston, Texas,
right?
And it's widely said that that one is acknowledged because it was, the last place where people were let know that they have been freed from enslavement. However, what the actual history is it wasn't the last place, because the last place had to do with the Trail of Tears, because the Indians also enslaved black people. And so that Trail of Tears went another year when they pushed the Indians who took the black people that they were enslaving with them, and they weren't told that they had been freed until 1 year after that.
Wow.
So that was actually the last one, is when the people on the Indian territories told their people. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that would have been 1 year past the Galveston.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. Thank you.
Well, now,
Go
but
ahead.
one thing about that, though, the Indian territories are not, technically speaking, that's not United States territory.
Right. And what I'm saying is, they were in what you would call United States territory before they were pushed on that Trail of Tears.
Right.
So they were in United States territory.
Yeah, but whatever land they were on before they were pushed westward,
yeah,
that was tribal territory under previous treaties that, of course, the government broke and then pushed them further west. What I'm wondering about, though, on that, because generally speaking, tribal land, tribal law. So would Lincoln's proclamation have carried any weight on tribal territory?
That's a good question.
Well, the way that I understand it is what they were considering to be U.S. territory was the territory that they were pushing the Indians off, which caused that, what they call the Trail of Tears, when they were pushed, further west. So they were pushing them off the land that they considered to be U.S. territory, and that started to happen at that point, where in Galveston they were saying that this was the last day of this. So I mean, it's worth doing a little due diligence and researching a little further. But that was those were the actual last enslaved people to have been let known that the law said that they were not enslaved, and then at that point they were actually freed by the Indians.
That's interesting.
The Indians freed their people that they were enslaving, who happened to be black.
Wow. Thank you for your call. We got to get to this next caller. Hello, caller. Thank you for hanging around for so long.
Yeah, that's okay. I just want to ask you a couple of questions. Number one, you said all the things that Biden didn't do. Would you rather Trump still be in there? And is there anything that Biden did do that you approve of?
Well, black people, let me just say this. Black people didn't vote 90% for Trump. Okay? And so, like, it's funny. I remember when I started at this radio station, right? Obama was in office, and then Trump got in office. And then whenever we talk about anything that Obama had done or had started, then people say, well, Obama's not the president now. Trump's the president now. But now Biden's in office, and as soon as we start talking about stuff that Biden is doing, the person who's in office, people start say, oh, well, you must like Trump. I didn't support either one of them. I voted third party. I'm just letting you know. I voted third party. I didn't support either one of them. And I definitely don't support Jim Crow Joe, who spent his life making life hard for black people, whether it's through mass incarceration or allowing credit card companies to rip us off, or helping banks take homes from widows of black and brown people. So, like, for me, I criticize him just like I criticized the last guy, just like I criticized the guy before him.
Yep.
So
you're consistent.
Exactly.
But see, that's because you're about principle.
No, I mean, you've just been in there since January. This is not the end of June yet. I just wanted to know, is there anything that he did that you agree with? Anything at all?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you like. Agree in the sense that here's the thing. Has
he done anything that would help the people of the mass or help America as a people? Anything
put it
at
like this, right?
Because I mean, the
1400. Let me just say
about what he didn't do.
The 1400.
Very specific, but that must have been the 1400 made you had the 2000. Remember, it's supposed to have been 2000, and Congress, the Senate, said no, you only get 600, and Biden said no, you're gonna get the rest of it, and you did get the rest of it.
We did not get the rest of it. We were supposed to get $2,000. We got 1400.
Is what?
Are you serious? Well, then why didn't he
That-
say 1,400 then? No, if
You
that's
wouldn't-
if
you
okay. Let me just say this:
Well,
if we're
with
counting
Trump-
what
with
if we're
Trump-
counting what Trump gave us, then they would be
$600.
$3,200 checks. Why not call them $3,200 checks then?
No, well, the last,
Because
the last
no,
installment
because
was
Trump gave us $1,200. So why not add the $1,200? If we're adding everything the government did for us over 2 years together, no, the Democrats ran specifically on $2,000 checks, not 1,400 plus 600. That was a different administration. That's a whole totally different administration.
Yep.
So that was not what we were.
Initially, Trump wanted to give $2,000. The Senate said no, so you got $600. Biden said you're gonna get the rest of it.
That was not what they said. They did not just say we're giving you the rest of it. They said $2,000 checks are going
Well, why
out.
didn't you? How come you don't remember when Trump said 2,000 and the Senate said no?
Oh
That's a
no,
different-
no, you know
Yes.
what? We do remember that.
Yes.
In fact, I have no problem saying Trump said 2,000. It was close to election time, and the Democrats were not going to give him that win.
Right.
They flat out were not going to give it to him.
Right.
Well,
Now,
the Senate is the one that said 600 now.
yeah,
The Senate, Trump's
after the
Senate,
election,
is still in there.
Right.
after the election, and they ran on a pledge of 2,000. Look, Scott is not lying about this, man. He's not lying about it.
But you know, I didn't say he was lying. I was just, sometimes you listen to radio stations, sometimes you like to hear something, somebody's doing positive. The man just got in there. But nobody said anything about all those doggone bills these people pass all over the United States to keep you from voting. And
We just talked about that
We
last
talk
week.
about that all the time,
We just
bro.
talked about it last week. The Texas voter suppression.
We
just
talk
talked
about all
it.
of this stuff.
We
You
just
don't
talked
be
about it.
listening.
Okay.
You don't be
Well,
listening enough.
We just did a segment on it last week, literally, or the week before last. We talked about Texas, what was going on in Texas. We talked about what happened in Atlanta with those. That's what I'm saying. We talked about it. Like I said, the difference is, what I'm saying is, when Trump got in office, people had no problem with the media from the day he got in there saying he won't last 6 months. He'll be out of there 6 months. From the day he got in there, whether it was bringing Steve Bannon in or whatever, they criticized everything he did, which was fine. He's the president. You're supposed to criticize everything Trump do. The difference is that the media gives Joe Biden a pass. He's being treated with kid gloves by the media, even though he's a liar, just like the last clown was. They're both liars, but only one gets called out regularly by the corporate media. That's the difference. They're both liars. And so
my one basic question was there anything at all?
Well, like I said,
that Biden did that was positive that you agree with? That's
well,
all.
like I was saying, the thing about
with
Joe Biden and the Democrats in general is that when it depends on what you view as positive, like the $1,400
no,
checks.
I'm talking about anything.
No, that's what I'm saying. Let me finish.
Let me finish.
Okay, the $1,400 checks were theoretically positive, but they were not. So I agree with giving the American public some money. I think it just should have been a reoccurring $2,000 check, less like we saw in other Western democracies in this country. In the world.
It shouldn't be a one time and then let's see if we're going to do it. It should be something that's stable and steady that you can count on, that you can budget for, instead of, even just like with the tax returns. How many people out there are still waiting that have put their tax returns in and are still waiting not to hear that, okay, we've got your return process, there's just a bit of a backlog on getting the money out. They're still waiting to hear what's going on with my return. And I told you about 3-4 months ago, I think, maybe a little more. When it's time for the next election, everybody from Washington, D.C. down to City Hall is going to be saying that all the stuff they ran on that they didn't do, they're going to blame it on the pandemic.
Yep. You have
that's politics. No, I just want to know, was there one positive thing without any but that Scott agreed with? That's all.
What do you mean? Like I said,
it's the one thing
it's just the government. It's the government.
Like that.
It's the government. You're not going to get 100% of anything that you want from these people.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna get yes, but I like giving the American public. Let me finish. I like giving the government, the American public, some money. The $1,400. They said it was supposed to be $2,000. That's not nearly enough. So, like I said, it's a 50-50 situation. I'm glad that they gave the public something, but I don't think that was what they should have given the American public.
What he's really saying is just, look, do what you say what you're going to do, make the two sides balance out, and then we're good. Look, if you can only do so much, say what you can do. Don't promise me the moon and then tell me because you got me outside of the city limits, well, hey, I took you somewhere.
Well, I mean, if you got the Senate, I noticed you haven't said too much about that.
About what?
He can't do everything. You said one thing, he could just, with the stroke of a pen. Everything that you was talking about cannot be done with the stroke of a pen. And Mitch McConnell said he's going to make sure that nothing he wants to
They have the House.
They've got the House. In fact, they've got the House and they've got the Senate.
Yes.
They've got it all.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Why is Mitch McConnell holding up everything? They got the Senate.
He's not. It's a lie. It's a lie. I'm actually glad you brought this up because we're going to talk about this in the next segment. I was going to talk about the tactic that political parties use to make sure nothing gets done. But right now we're going to hear all the time that the Democratic Party promised $2,000 checks, and notice none of the times they said we're going to give you $1,400 on top of the $16.
Lane, courtesy of a great riser, Dems Watchdog.
If you send John and the Reverend to Washington, those $2,000 checks will go out the door.
We will be able to pass $2,000 stimulus checks for the people next week.
We'll deliver the $2,000 stimulus checks.
And that begins with the $2,000 stimulus.
When you send me and Reverend Warnock to the Senate, we will pass those $2,000 stimulus checks. You send me and Reverend Warnock to the Senate, we will pass those $2,000 stimulus checks.
They will make decisions about whether we give people a $2,000 check.
We need to pass $2,000 stimulus checks for the people.
For getting people the $2,000 in relief, direct payment.
Congress should pass $2,000 checks. President-elect Biden and Democrats are all pushing for $2,000 relief checks.
See, that's what I'm saying. They didn't say 14 on top of 600. They said specifically $2,000 checks. This is what I'm saying.
Oh,
go ahead.
Not only that,
it's very easy to talk about giving something for free, $2,000 check and everything, but and also, you know that we are trillion dollars in debt by the last administration.
They don't care about it.
But don't you say
take it out of
the next
and yet Joe Biden expanded the military budget. He put more in it than Trump did. He raised it $19 billion from where Trump had it. So take some of that money out of the military industrial complex. Take it out of the prison industrial complex that Joe Biden helped expand in the 90s by writing the Clinton crime bill. And the bloated national security state that he helped expand when he wrote the Patriot Act in the late 90s. Okay? This is what I'm saying. Why does it always have to come out of the working class and the poor? Why does it come from the military industrial complex or the prison industrial complex? Why did he tell Wall Street? Why did he tell Wall Street guys that nothing's going to change?
Let's just say Kamala Harris was in there in the same situation, then you'd be saying the same thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
She's
helped put more brothers in prison than anybody. She laughed about how she put so many people in jail right after laughing about how much weed she smoked.
Yeah, you laughed about it.
No, she laughed about it. She laughed about it.
No, wait a minute. I said, did anybody check to see if those people committed any crime?
Marijuana.
She put people in jail because their kids were truant.
Right. Marijuana.
Because their kids didn't go to school for a total of 20. They missed a total of 10 days. She put them in jail for that.
We're not talking about murderers and rapists here. We're talking about a woman who herself said, I smoked marijuana. I smoked marijuana. She helped keep people in prison for nonviolent drug crimes when she herself admitted she smoked weed. Her and Joe Biden, as soon as they get to the White House, they fire everybody who ever touched the joint. Everybody who put on their survey, because they gave them all their workers, their laborers a survey. Have you ever smoked marijuana? The people who said they had smoked marijuana, they fired them in spite of the fact that there's plenty of video out there of Kamala Harris laughing about smoking marijuana herself. So this is what I'm saying. It's the hypocrisy. It's the hypocrisy. Yes, yes.
Since I'm in education, what do you suggest that be done to a parent that keeps a child out of school for almost a month?
A lot of the parents aren't keeping their kids out of school. A lot
well,
of these
no, you just gave that example. So what do you suggest
I'm saying a lot
to that parent?
Okay, first of all, it wasn't that you kept your kid out for a month. It was that if you had a cumulative of over 10, it wasn't a month. It was 10 days, and that included excused absences. That included absences with a doctor's note.
Why would a child be out of school for 20 days? Excused absence
over the course of a year.
If they're not being sick.
Over the course of a year, for example, bronchitis. In California, we had all them problems with those forest fires. Bronchitis goes up when those things hit. I know about this because my son had it.
Yeah, but I don't believe no parent went to jail because their children had bronchitis.
But my point. Where are we sending parents? Why are we sending parents? A lot of these parents are overwhelmed. A lot of these parents are working 2 and 3 jobs. Again, you have violent criminals on the streets.
So if the child don't get an education, what do you think they're gonna grow up being then? If the parents are working 2 or 3 jobs,
so you think that
what would putting the parent in jail do?
You think putting the parent in jail is going to do what? You think mass incarcerating poor people is going to do what? Meanwhile, let me just say this. Meanwhile, she let Steve Mnuchin, who was Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary, before he was his Treasury Secretary, he was under investigation in the state of California. Her office, the people that worked for her, recommended that he be charged. He donated to her campaign. Magically, the charges go away. Okay? Now, you can look this up. Steve Mnuchin. Everybody go look it up. Steve Mnuchin, Kamala Harris. I'm just saying. Okay, but my point is, while she's locking people up for being truant parents and for having a joint, she's laughing about how much weed she smoked. Okay? That's called hypocrisy, sir. And I'm glad you called because, like I said, I want to get into this next segment about the rotating villain. Thank you for your call. I'm so glad that this guy brought this up because there is a tactic. There's a tactic called the rotating villain.
Break this down.
I learned about this recently, and it made total sense about how the Democrats and the Republicans both keep string along their devoted voters. Okay.
Oh yeah.
In American democracy, when the majority party has enough votes to pass populist legislation, party leaders designate a scapegoat who will refuse to vote with the party, thereby killing the legislation. The opposition is otherwise inexplicable and typically comes from somebody who is safe and not up for re-election.
Right.
This allows for maximum diffusion of responsibility. The rotating villain. That is what Joe Manchin is. That is what Kristen Sinema is. Now here you go. Manchin to oppose voting rights bill pushed by U.S. Senate colleagues. West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, a crucial swing vote in the U.S. Senate, announced on Sunday he intends to oppose a sweeping voting rights bill backed by the majority of his fellow Democrats that would expand access to voting across the United States. Speaking on Fox News, Manchin said of the bill, known as the For the People Act, it's the wrong piece of legislation to bring our country together and unite our country. And I'm not supporting that because I think it will divide us further. Now, Manchin is key to control of the U.S. Senate, which is divided equally between Democrats and Republicans. He has at times proven to be a thorn in the Biden administration's side by crossing party lines to oppose legislation or block White House appointees. He has also continually opposed efforts to eliminate the filibuster, which would make it easier for Democrats to pass legislation. That's who he is. Him and Kristen Sinema, they are the rotating villains. Again, in American democracy, when the majority party has enough votes to pass a populist legislation, party leaders designate a scapegoat who will refuse to vote with the party, thereby killing the legislation. That is what Joe Manchin is. That is what Kristen Sinema is. These people are rotating villains.
So this is in essence just theater.
Yes, it's political theater.
To maintain the status quo.
Absolutely.
Because status quo is good for their business.
It absolutely is. And so this is what we've seen in you know, with the corporate tax hike, the opposition to Nord Stream 2, you know, with the child detention centers, the public option, the unemployment benefits, the minimum wage, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. All these things are basically ways to keep the people on the hook, the fish on the hook. We'll keep jumping because then we always say the Democrats want to do this. They want to do this. They being held back from doing this. They want to do this. They really want to help us out. Oh man, they really want to help us out. But it's just those horrible, god awful Republicans. Oh my God.
With those one or two Democrats who won't stay on the party line. Won't stick with the plan.
Yes. And if it just wasn't for these two Democrats who vote against their own party regularly, then Joe Biden would be able to do so much stuff. Now, whenever they ask Joe Biden about the filibuster, what does he say? I'd rather not get rid of it. But if you're serious about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, if you're serious about the public option, if you're serious about the minimum wage, if you're serious about all these things that you ran on, that you promised people, if you're truly serious about the stimulus checks, if you're really seriously about, you know, the national policing on policing, the National Commission on Policing, then he should have been like, look, if the Republicans don't want to do business, then we will push through. We will eliminate that filibuster and get things accomplished. But no, and let me just say this, the Republicans do the same thing. They do not want to get rid of abortion, folks.
No, I don't think so. And in fact, okay, both parties at one time or another have expressed their dislike for the filibuster.
Mm-hmm.
Neither party has actually moved to get rid of it.
Nope.
And I honestly, I can understand why. Because you never know when you're going to be the minority party. You don't want to be the party that gets rolled over vote after vote after vote. So that's your your last defense.
Right.
But they should just be honest about it and say, look, there's a reason why the filibuster has been here in the Congress. There's a reason why it's always been there. There's a reason why we've never gotten rid of it, no matter who was on top. We've never gotten rid of it, and this is why.
And they know that they'd all be held accountable if they got rid of it. They don't want to be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the rotating villain thing's about. They could go from Joe Manchin to Kristen Sinema, you know, to whoever, and say, well, you know, it's just, I'm sorry, it was just that one person who just happens to not be up for election this year. You know, instead of being forced, and I don't mean forced in terms of physically forced, but I mean in terms of being compelled by their voters to actually get things accomplished. And plus, it keeps people hanging on. It keeps their voters strung out. No matter what they do, there's always that brass ring, abortion for the Republicans. Oh my God, abortion. Oh my God, we got to get rid of abortion. Oh, George W. Bush didn't want to get rid of abortion. He didn't want to get rid of it, and neither did Donald Trump. They don't want to get rid of abortion. They will tell their right-wing religious voters they do, but they genuinely do not want to get rid of abortion any more than the Democrats want universal health care or anything that would rock the boat of their corporate donors too much. Real criminal justice reform. They don't want to do it. They don't want to do it, and the rotating villain strategy allows them to do that.